When markets crash, it's the best time to get rich. So I like crashes. So this next crash is going to be really, really good, but it'll bring down gold, silver, Bitcoin, stocks. But the good news is a crash is a good time to get rich. So that's why I'm optimistic, and I'm very optimistic on gold, silver, and Bitcoin, not on stocks. This is going to be the biggest crash in world history. We have never had this much debt pumped up. Debt is the biggest problem of all, but that's called M2, money supply. And the debt to GDP ratio is out of sight. So when it comes down, which it brings everything down with it, that's when I'm going to be buying more gold, silver, and Bitcoin. If I could say a couple of more things, is published this book here. It's called The Capitalist Manifesto. It comes out November 10th. And I want to give people the big picture. The reason I don't care for Yellen or Powell, because they're both Marxist. And when I say that, I get nailed. But I will read you a quote from Lenin. Okay, this is Vladimir. He says, the establishment of a central bank, this is a direct quote, is 90% of a communizing of a nation. That's Yellen and Powell. And the other statement from Lenin is, and this is in manifesto here, the best way to destroy the capitalist system is to debauch the currency. But you can't keep printing fake money. You know, that's M2. And the velocity of money keeps dropping, but the debt keeps going up. So you and I don't have to go to Harvard to understand that's not good. So they're just going to keep doing the same old thing. And meanwhile, you know, that's what we're doing today is actually going to kill the economy too, because you and I are now on, let's say, Zoom. And the reason Yellen and Powell are scrambling is because they've expanded M2, so everybody thinks there's going to be inflation. But velocity of money, which is what Jim Records and I always talk about, the velocity of money is plummeting. People are not spending. So they pump all this money in, prices go up. Meanwhile, the Asians are catching up now. The ports are finally open. So it is transitory inflation. But the problem is we're stacked with this massive debt, and all it's done is bump up the stock market and real estate market. The money has not gone into the economy. That's the sad part. So the rich get richer, but the poor and middle class are getting poorer. It is tragic what's happening today. And if you look historically, what's happened today is the nominal debt to GDP is a correlation of M2, the volume of money, times the velocity of money. The S&P 500 is really the S&P 7. And it's being held up by Treasury Secretary Yellen and Powell. So there's no correlation between the economy and what Yellen and Powell are doing. Now, I'll say one more thing, is that I like crashes. So this next crash is going to be really, really good, but it'll bring down gold, silver, Bitcoin, stocks. But the good news is a crash is a good time to get rich. So that's why I'm optimistic, and I'm very optimistic on gold, silver, and Bitcoin, not on stocks. I'm very bullish gold, silver, and Bitcoin, but I'm very anti-Fed and Treasury. And I think it's very interesting that Yellen came from the Fed. And let me repeat Lenin again. The establishment of a central bank is 90% of communizing a nation. That's in this book, Capitalist Manifesto. I think we better wake up because our academics, our school teachers, are Marxist. And I'm not saying that my poor dad was a Marxist, but he didn't know it. He's a good man. He's a school teacher. But he didn't know anything about money. Nothing. And so that's what they're teaching our kids. They're teaching woke, critical race theory. I don't know what else is, sexual gendering and all this. Going, hey, why don't you just learn to buy gold, silver, Bitcoin and be okay? You know? Remember, your profit is made when you buy, not when you sell. So I remember in 2000, gold went down to like 300 or something like this. I thought I died and went to heaven. I just backed up the truck. So when Bitcoin went to, let's say, 20,000, I was going, well, that's kind of interesting. So when it backed down to 3, then rebounded to 6, I picked it up at 6, and it's 41 today. So your profits are made when you buy, not when you sell. So if you're worried about your position, you probably bought too high. I bought gold when it was $350 an ounce. You see, every professional investor knows it's not when you sell, it's when you buy. So I bought Bitcoin at 6,000 and 7,000. So I'm just saying, I'm a pure capitalist. When markets crash, it's the best time to get rich. So I'm getting very excited about a crash coming because the better stocks will come available. Unfortunately, there would be massive social unrest. That's what I'm more concerned about, because we have not reinvested. The Fed and the Treasury have only invested in the investor class. They haven't invested in the working class. And the working class is without jobs, without pay, without this. Their 401ks are going to get toasted. And that's why I'm more saying, I don't like what's happening. The stock market, like I said, it's not the S&P 500, it's the S&P 7. And the separation between the stock market and the economy has never been worse. You know, I'm just disturbed because the money is staying only in the investor market. Every time the Fed does something, the Treasury does something, only guys like me get richer. But the money is not going into the real economy. They're not investing. They haven't invested for years in plant and equipment. So we have massive, massive unemployment and underemployment. And that's why I quote Lenin, the establishment of a central bank is 90% of communism. And the best way to destroy a capitalist system is to debauch the currency. That was in 1971 that Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. So in this book here, I kind of woke up in 1972 as a Marine pilot flying in Vietnam. And I went behind enemy lines in Vietnam looking for gold because it was illegal in 1972 for Americans to own gold. And, you know, Ron Paul said we should end the Fed. I agree with him. They're actually Marxist organizations. And that's what I cover in my book coming out November 10th, the Marine Corps birthday, is we need the Capitalist Manifesto. And that's why our gold, silver, and Bitcoin are for capitalists. Right now, it makes sense to get out of the reach of the Fed and the Treasury. Let me read you one more statement from this book, Capitalist Manifesto. It's by Lenin. Fascism is capitalism in decay. So therefore, that it's not just Fedcoin. We're forced to wear masks. We're forced to get vaccinated. As we speak, thousands of healthcare workers are losing their jobs. Military officers are losing their jobs. This is fascism. So Fedcoin is one more step into fascism. So what I am doing is I am buying gold, silver, Bitcoin, and cash, and I hate to say this, bullets, because I got deplatformed for that, because they're going to start track with this blockchain. They can track everything. So they can, as I forgot the comedian, but he said they're going to track you by your bullet. So they can track everything now. So I want everything possible, gold, silver, Bitcoin, and my bullets, that are not trackable. You cannot trace me. You cannot trace